Thank you for being here. This is our annual AB617 Community Air Protection Program meeting. My name is Marshall Haprov. I am the Public Information Officer here for the Mojave Desert Air Quality Management District. Thank you to those of you who are in person, as well as those of you who are joining us on Zoom. We are also recording this meeting so that you can view it later at your leisure. We're going to be talking about our work in the Community Air Protection Program and the feedback that we are seeking from the public in potential future projects. I want to make this clear that this program is specific to communities and operations and potential projects within our jurisdictional boundaries. We cover most of San Bernardino County, in fact, the entire desert portion of San Bernardino County, and a small portion of Riverside County along the Colorado River, including the city of Blythe. We have 9 municipalities in our jurisdiction, covering 3 separate county supervisorial districts. With that, I'm going to hand it over and introduce you to our Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer, Alan DeSalvio. But before Alan takes over, I want to introduce also our Support Services Supervisor, Jorge Camacho. Jorge, it's yours.
Hi, Marshall. Thank you for that. So we'll get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you for sharing your time with us. This is our 5th community workshop meeting on Assembly Bill 617, also known as the Community Air Protection Program, and also known as CAP. I'm going to use those terms interchangeably, just know they mean the exact same thing. Prior to speaking a little bit more about the program, I do want to provide some background on the legislation itself. 617, authored by Assemblywoman Cristina Garcia and passed by the legislature into law in 2017. This piece of legislation directed our state oversight agency, the California Air Resources Board, to establish the Community Air Protection Program. The focus of the program was to reduce exposure in communities that are most impacted or most burdened by air pollution and cumulative exposure across the state. As part of this program, CARB also selected various communities throughout the state that would have to take further steps in support of the bill. In the next few slides, we're going to address the overall goals of the CAP program at the state level. And then we will move on to show the action the district has completed in support of the goals of AB 617. For the CAP program, CARB wanted to focus on community action, and they identified 6 areas that they believe needed to be addressed. These areas were 1, community level air quality monitoring, 2, community emissions reduction programs if applicable, 3, accelerated retrofit of pollution controls on industrial facilities, 4, enhanced emissions reporting requirements, 5, increased penalty provisions for polluters, and lastly, grants to local community groups if applicable and eligible. Once these 6 areas were identified, CARB then created program elements to address the main areas. The program elements were monitoring, emissions, funding, and emissions reduction program. Within each program element, there were objectives to be achieved at the state and in some cases, the local level. For example, within the monitoring element, there were directives to establish community air monitoring networks. You will hear more about our purple air sensors later in the presentation. Within the funding element, the state provided incentive funds for eligible organizations to purchase new and cleaner engine technology. And lastly, for the emissions reduction program element, the district worked on a BARC implementation schedule for applicable facilities. BARC stands for Best Available Retrofit Control Technology, and you will learn more about that later in the presentation. CARB further developed additional elements such as technology clearinghouse. In this element, the state and local agencies will look at additional emissions control technology for stationary, area-wide, and mobile sources. Emissions reporting, where the state wanted to create annual reporting for specific facilities and develop uniform methodologies for reporting. And lastly, a resource center to provide organizations with best practices information, as well as education information on emissions and outreach tools to help support the program. As the AB 617 program is growing and evolving, CARB is continually seeking input from stakeholders on how they can improve the program or other areas to consider. This slide has a link to CARB's 617 page, email, contact, and the ability to subscribe for updates on the program. If you have not done so, I would encourage everyone in today's meeting to visit the website. Now, moving on to our next slide, I would like to do a second introduction to Mr. Alan DeSalvio, our Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer, and he's going to tell us more about the action the district has taken in support of the program.
Thank you, Jorge. Good morning. My name is Alan DeSalvio, Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer. As we mentioned earlier, one of the requirements of AB 617 was to have best available retrofit control technology in place on selected facilities, specifically those facilities which were subject to the cap and trade program in 2017. We had 4 facilities subject to that requirement. 1 chemical crystallization facility in Trona, and 3 Portland cement kiln operations elsewhere in the district. So the district adopted Rule 1157.1 to apply to the facility in Trona in 2019, and the district had previously amended Rule 1161 Portland cement kilns in 2018 to reflect and require the best available retrofit control technology on all 4 facilities. So those rules have been adopted and have been implemented. We are in compliance with that requirement of AB 617. If you'd like to see the nature of those rules, you can go to our website and look, find the rule text under the rules section of our website. So many of our requirements apply within the federal ozone non-attainment area, and that's a classic element of our governmental jargon, which nobody seems to understand. We barely understand it ourselves. FONA stands for the Federal Ozone Non-Attainment Area, and it's that portion of the district that's not meeting the most recent federal ambient air quality standard for ozone, which is 70 parts per billion. We're sitting in that area right now in Victorville. And for those of you that are in the room, you can see a map on the wall behind you. The pink area is the FONA, the Federal Ozone Non-Attainment Area. The green area is not non-attainment for ozone. As we mentioned earlier, we are addressing the community sensor requirement through the purchase and installation of purple air sensors. And this map with the lovely purple dots shows where the district has installed those purple air sensors. We like these sensors because they are community sensors. They are relatively maintenance free, and we can put them in places where we cannot cite a federal reference method station, which costs $250,000 to install and operate. So they look like there's large areas of the district that are not monitored, but unfortunately those are areas where there's simply no population, no Wi-Fi, and no place where we can actually install these sensors. However, the corollary is that we do have these sensors installed in every population center, including a few interesting ones out in the outer stretches of the district. So we believe we are meeting the community sensor requirement with these purple air sensors. We maintain them. We're trying to install them and update the network continuously. And the district is looking at other kinds of community sensors that we can fund and put in place. But right now, the only real viable sensors that meet this requirement are these purple airs. The last element that I'm here to talk about is the emissions inventory program. The state of California is making a major effort to increase its criteria and air toxics reporting, both to the state and to us, and also to the public. And some of those requirements, some of those new requirements are going to be coming into place this year and next year and in the following year. And this slide is designed to show you that all that information is publicly accessible through the ARB's pollution mapping tool. It's a very interesting and fascinating way to look at a lot of the data that we deal with on a daily basis. So any data that the district gathers is accessible through this website. I'm turning it back over to Marshall?
myself. Thanks, Alan.
Back to Jorge. Thank you, Jorge.
Thanks for that information, Alan. As I mentioned earlier, CAP focuses on community participation and gathering community feedback. Over the past years, the district has had several meetings with stakeholders, and in previous meetings, the community supported funding zero emission equipment when possible, on an emphasis with clean transportation projects for children. Starting in 2025, we are moving to semi-annual meetings. Previously, we would only have one meeting a year. So starting 2025 next year, just kind of putting that plug in, we will be moving to 2 meetings, and the next one will be scheduled for February 2025. In addition to the outreach events and the meeting that the district conducts, the district's created a community air protection program webpage. On the page, you can find information about our past meetings, a list of completed projects and projects that are currently in progress, and other documents showing the action the district has taken in support of the program. And then on this website, as I mentioned, this is a community level focus. We're continuously seeking input from stakeholders. On this same page, there is a survey that anyone can complete, as well as our contact information if you have any questions, comments, or feedback at any time. So just know you can always provide feedback and comments. As I mentioned earlier, one of the program elements of the CAP program was incentive funding that was provided to the air district to fund emission reducing projects in areas impacted by air pollution. The grant funds provide financial incentives to both public and private sector entities to reduce emissions by retiring and replacing older equipment with newer, cleaner engine technologies and prioritizing zero emission technology and infrastructure when possible. Now, where does the funding come from? The funding comes from the California Climate Investment, which is a statewide initiative that puts billions of cap and trade dollars to work, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, strengthening the economy, and improving public health and the environment. On average, the district receives about $1 million in incentive funding per year. Now, there is strict criteria to be eligible for the incentive funding. In this slide, there are examples of projects that may be eligible. For example, on-road vehicles, school bus replacement projects, school bus repowers, heavy, medium heavy, and light duty, heavy duty truck replacement projects, emergency vehicles, for off-road vehicles, potentially for diesel/LS large spark ignition engines or LSI engines for repowers to zero emission, mobile equipment replacement, and retrofits for engine. As far as infrastructure, we have also funded zero emission infrastructure, which includes EV charging and hydrogen fueling stations are an eligible project category, projects with solar/wind power system generation, and public school buses, including battery charging and alternative fueling. In addition, not only do these projects have to meet strict eligibility criteria, they also have to provide a direct air quality benefits to a community that have been identified as disadvantaged and low income. One of the first projects building on community feedback that we did with CAP Fund was to partner with Northwest Pipe Company to purchase 2 near tier 4 forklifts. This was a unique process that the grantee retires that destroyed several pieces of equipment to get these tier 4. Now, a tier 4 engine is the cleanest diesel engine available at this time. A tier 4 engine significantly reduces emissions of particulate matter and oxides of nitrogen to near zero emission levels compared to older and uncontrolled equipment. Still continuing to build on community feedback, the district partnered with local school districts to replace diesel school buses with zero emission school buses. The 3 school districts that we have worked with so far are the Lucerne Valley Unified School District, the Apple Valley Unified School District, and the Adelanto Elementary School District. The district provided in most cases almost 100% funding to purchase the new buses and also provided funding to install charging stations needed to charge the buses. As of right now, we have funded 10 buses total. And continuing on this feedback, the district also sought additional federal funding sources to support zero emission school buses. In 2021, the district was awarded a targeted airshed grant to replace additional zero emission school buses for the Adelanto Elementary School District. Our next slide just shows some of the infrastructure that was provided to the school district, some of the infrastructure that was built by the school district with grant funding. We have the Apple Valley Unified School District chargers, the Launch Elementary School District chargers, and the Lucerne Valley Unified School District chargers. In order to ensure the equipment is destroyed and rendered inoperable, our replacement project must result in emission reduction that are quantifiable, surplus, enforceable, and permanent. The easiest way to do this is to actually destroy the old equipment. On this slide, you'll see pictures of a school bus being destroyed at a certified salvage yard where the engine is completely destroyed, so that way it can't be used again. On our website too, you also find videos of a school bus actually being destroyed as well. In case you're interested in just watching those, it's a pretty cool video. I would encourage you to watch it. Currently, we are also very excited to partner with a new school district, the Snowline Unified School District, because they applied for and were awarded funding to replace 2 diesel school buses with a zero-emission school bus replacement. In addition, they will also be getting grant funding to help build the infrastructure needed to support those buses. We're also working with Lucerne Valley Unified School District again to replace another one of their school buses, as well as supporting infrastructure. This year, the district is also funding agricultural equipment replacement projects. These projects will have a direct air quality benefit to disadvantaged and low-income communities. Similar to the forklift, these old tractors and pieces of equipment will be replaced with Tier 4 engine technology, which is near zero emission as compared to the old equipment. Now, to be clear, there are strict criteria for incentive funding. So even if projects are proposed or being worked on, we need to make sure that eligibility criteria is still met. As far as CAP funding for future funding, the district will continue to work with school districts for zero-emission school bus replacement projects. The district will also attempt to work with the school districts to potentially replace their gasoline and diesel-powered lawn and garden equipment with zero-emission alternatives. The MDAQMD will also explore funding air filtration for classrooms and school and school buildings if schools are interested, and also fund equipment replacement projects like the agricultural equipment I mentioned earlier. If there are no objections from our residents within our boundary, the district can and will continue to fund and support these project categories, as well as equipment replacement projects. As of right now, is there any, I'm gonna pause for a second to see if there's any feedback on these projects or proposed course of action for the district.
If you're on Zoom, I've given all participants the ability to unmute and voice their feedback should you have any at this time.
Marshall.
Yeah, if you would, could you please come up and use this microphone up here? Can you, there's a little button right at the bottom of it, push, make sure it goes green.
There we go. My question is, isn't it cheaper to retrofit a school bus than to destroy it?
I'll go ahead and take this. Retrofits are an eligible project category. We have not received any project applications for retrofitting, but if somebody wanted to retrofit to clean air engine technology, that's something that we will look at, yes. But as of right now, we really just got school districts saying they just want to replace the buses, but retrofit is an eligible project category. Yeah.
Even in the case of a retrofit, we have to have the engine that's been removed destroyed,
Okay.
because we have to show that there's a benefit to the environment. So if that engine can be repurposed, then it's still going to emit into the atmosphere.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall, for checking. We don't have any comments on Zoom, so then we will move on to our next slide. Just additional, if you have any other questions or feedback. But at this slide too, I also want to remind people about completing the survey online for feedback. Maybe there's something that you didn't think of right now. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we're accepting feedback at any time all year long. You can go into our website, get our contact information, or submit the survey. And the other thing I want to mention is we are moving to semi-annual meetings with our next one scheduled for February 2025. So just keep that in mind. That's my second plug for that. And lastly, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to our newsletter. Marshall does a great job of putting those together. And also you can subscribe to specific categories in there. So if you're only interested in finding out more information about new rules or new grant funding, you can subscribe just to those particular sections and do that so you don't get spammed. But I would highly encourage you to do so. We put effort into that. And by we, I mean Marshall does a great job doing that.
I want to make another comment as well, and that is that as I discussed on a slide earlier, we have 30 odd, maybe 40 odd purple air monitors and purple air community sensors installed within the district. The air district is willing to install, under certain circumstances, a purple air sensor anywhere within the boundaries of the district. So if there's anyone online who's interested in having a purple air sensor installed, the distinction is that if it's our sensor or my sensor, then you're going to have to sign an agreement, and you'll have to cite it in a way that we agree to the citing. And the requirements involve security of the site, availability of grid power, 110 volt AC power, and also public Wi-Fi, because the instrument's a community sensor. It has to be able to talk to the internet. If anyone's interested in having a community sensor and they don't want to put a Mojave Desert owned community sensor at their location, you can buy your own sensor and install it. They're a couple $100. I want to say they're probably $300 now. But it doesn't matter. You're still going to have Wi-Fi. You'll still have to have power, and you'll obviously have to install this coffee cup size sensor on your own. But we have a handful left. So if anyone's interested, they can drop an email to any of the emails that we've provided. We're not actually giving you Brad's email, but I'm sure the emails are available. You can go on the website. You can contact Marshall. You can respond. You can ask for this information in that questionnaire that we're providing, and simply ask for the agreement. It's a signed agreement for a sensor, and if you sign it, we will come out and install the sensor. So, I mean, I just want to emphasize that we are committed to community sensors as an adjunct to our existing permanent air monitoring system. Go ahead.
All right, one last call for any questions or feedback other than what we've heard so far. You got to come forward. You got to use the mic.
First off, thank you for the presentation. Just quick question. When is the application period opens for the grant incentive program?
The application period typically opens the first quarter of every year. So our next application period should open in January 1st, 2025. But in case you don't want to miss it, here's another plug. Subscribe to our newsletter and you will receive the actual updated information of exactly when they open and when they close. Thank you for that question.
All right, if we have no further questions, then we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you for those of you who've joined us in person and on Zoom. And to those of you who are watching the recorded of this version of this meeting later, if you have questions, comments, please use any of the contacts that you've heard from our names today on our website. You can find them pretty easily, especially through the AB617 webpage. Contacts are there. Reach out to us and we're happy to work with you. Thank you.